Today is May 19th, 2019, and you are listening to episode 6 of Manchild and the Old Guy. He's the Manchild, a bearded 20-something, and I'm the old guy, a cynical Gen Xer. This is your intergenerational podcast, where he discusses pop culture, faith, politics, and whatever he finds interesting. I tell him he's wrong and complain. Broadcasting from the basement because that is where Mom lets us. Welcome to our stream of consciousness.
James Charles is trash. Complete and utter trash. I'm going to say that right now. He is a freak. He sounds so creepy when he speaks, and I think he is bad for culture.
Okay,
Hello.
I'm going to say, you didn't say hi to the folks, Manchild.
Oh, that's me saying hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
You just broke right into your Zoomer rant before.
Well, I thought to save enough time for all the other things that we're going to rant about today that I'd get right into this, because there's a lot to explain, because you have no idea what I'm talking about.
This is a pop culture reference that is in over my head.
Okay, so there's this MUA, which is makeup artist, and they named Tati Anna or something, or just Tati. And she has an Instagram and a YouTube and a Facebook and all the socials. And what she does is she just puts on makeup, makes it look real nice and simple, and sells a bunch of makeup products to a bunch of susceptible teenage girls to be stealing credit card info from their parents, spending hundreds of dollars.
So how does she do this? Is this like a Instagram?
Videos, pictures, everything.
What do they call it? Influencer? So she's an...
Before the word influencer was out, yeah. But she's just a YouTube star. She's got like 13 million subscribers or something, you know. Oh. So she's doing this for a really long time, and there's this gay kid named Charles, James Charles, that really likes her stuff. And his parents didn't like him because he was gay. So then what he ends up doing is messaging her, DMing her, direct messaging, on Instagram saying, hey, you've been such an influence in my life. I'd love to be able to help you with your makeup. And if you could help me get my career started. He had a couple thousand subscribers on YouTube and whatever. His parents didn't really like him as far as I know. And so Tati accepts him into her home with her husband, and he's 17 at the time, and he shows up on her videos and live streams, all this stuff, helping her with makeup, and eventually his YouTube channel starts picking up. But he exclusively was using her makeup stuff, unless he was reviewing something else or he had like a special deal or whatever. But he had a contract with Tati that he could really only use that and talk about that, and that was his main sponsor for everything. So he can't go just sponsor a competitor anytime he wants, because that'd be wrong. That'd be breaking the contract they have. Well,
I'm sure there's a non-compete clause in that contract.
Exactly. But James Charles is a really weird guy. So he's 19 now. He moved out, got his own place or whatever. But he always wears makeup. He... is a very thin, weird person, and he's one of those bandwagoner things that teenage girls really like.
Well, to be honest, we talked about this for about 2 minutes before we started the podcast, and you said look up his picture.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time. I mean, I may have seen him someplace else, but I wouldn't have known him from Bill down the street. But he does look... Excuse me. Gotta cut back the 2 packs a day.
Yep.
He does look very effeminate.
Yeah. And that's some of the most confusing things for what's attractive to people now is either... for a guy, either a chick looks, Southern Belle, or looks tough and I can work on cars, or is just like a hot chick on a beach. That's usually what a guys go for. But girls have like this huge spectrum of what's attractive and what's not. But it changes per month. Because I'm dead honest. A guy just sees like a hot chick, she's a hot chick. Alright, that's the general. I'm not saying anything about me or anyone. That's just general stereotype of guys. Then women, a lot of the time, have the fantasy of like the big lumberjack guy, or the sweet, sensitive, nerdy, geek guy. They got those two. But that jumps around nowadays with this androgynous, female-esque, weird, gay...
Android?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it's this bandwagoning mentality that everyone has now, where one week you're on this, and it's not cool, you jump on another thing. You're not actually attracted to it. You just think it's cool because everyone else is doing it. So James Charles is that. There's a bunch of teenage girls think that's cool. I'd love it if my boyfriend could do makeup with me, and he knew what he was doing. No, you don't, because your boyfriend would be gay. That's what he would be. He would be gay. He wouldn't be anything else but gay. So stop making it seem like you want a boy that's gay. So anyway, so you
Why
got
do you
James...
say it that way?
What? Say what? Like gay?
Yes.
What? I'm just saying gay.
Why do you say that word that way?
G-A-Y. Gay.
But you keep having a strange emphasis. I don't understand.
I'm just saying gay. Gay.
Are you homophobic, man-child?
I am. You know what? I am not homophobic. I just don't like gay guys. I really don't like gay guys.
Do they scare you?
Make me. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't like gay guys. They make me furious looking at them. Especially gay guys that look like feminine and things. They make me angry.
Yes. I can tell that from our conversation.
Yeah. So I don't like that at all. So James Charles already infuriates me by looking at...
But you've never met him.
No. I'm just... His general character online, how he portrays himself, infuriates me.
Well, how do you know that's the real him?
I'm not saying anything about being the real him. I can hate the actor for a character they played. That doesn't necessarily mean I hate the actors. I hate that character that they decided to play. But in general, anytime I've seen James Charles do something online or in the public eye, none of us really know Britney Spears. But we've all seen Britney Spears, okay? We've all seen the crazy shave my head off.
Well, she's that way again. She's in a mental hospital right now.
I don't know if a vacation in the Malibu area with, like, a 5-star hotel.
They've taken her iPhone away.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad out here. But I'm just saying, we don't really know Britney Spears, but we've seen enough of Britney Spears and how she lives her life and how really weird it is that we all kind of get a gist of who Britney Spears is. So for James Charles, it's kind of the similar thing. We get this really weird, creepy dude, chick, whatever the heck it is, and people are just, right now, think he's really cool. No, right now, people don't think he's cool. So this is what happens. So I remember we've been talking about Coachella the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to Coachella. Well, he gets there, and it seems as if his tickets were invalid, that he couldn't get in. And then some Sugar Bear makeup brand decides, to...
Sugar Bear makeup brand?
It's some makeup brand called, like, Sugar Bear, or something like that. They decide,
Whatever happened to Maybelline?
Those aren't popular. I apologize. My phone should have been on... It was on quiet.
You're so popular.
Thanks. You're getting me off track. So there's, like, Sugar Bear makeup brand tells them, hey, we'll get you in, we'll give you security, all this kind of stuff. If you go on Instagram Live or Snapchat or whatever it was and promote our product and our sleeping aids stuff and our vitamins and all this other junk. So he does that, and he gets into Coachella. And then Tati sees it. Now remember, in the story, Tati has that contract with them for the makeup brand that she has and all the stuff she gives him to promote. Therefore, he's violating the contract. But she's bawling her eyes out about violating someone's trust, and then makes another video later on where she's well composed, everything's well lit, and she's dressed all nice, and exposes a 19-year-old kid about all the stuff that he's doing in his life, and talks about how I was a mother figure for him, and even he said I was, and money changes someone. I'm like, dude, chill, okay?
You saying she's doxing him, or?
Yes.
Oh.
She went into in-depth things about what he's talked about, what he likes, what he does.
Well, I thought doxing was revealing, like, where people live.
Doxing comes in different forms. There's the biggest form of doxing is that where you tell where someone is, their address, where they work. Thing is, he's pretty open about everything about his life, but none of the private stuff. So that's the beauty of being a YouTuber and all this influencers. People go crazy because they show their whole life versus showing just what you want to show people. That's the beauty of it. But a lot of people are stupid. Anyways,
do people really believe that they're showing them their whole lives?
Yeah.
But
there are people out there that do that, and that's the reason they get critical success, because they're showing every intimate detail about their life.
Like even them sitting on the toilet, pinching out a loaf.
Yes, there are people that do that. I'm not even kidding you. and they make crazy amounts of money. But anyway, this James Charles kid, she goes on talking about how his favorite thing to do is try and seduce straight guys.
Yeah, this is, if we talk about homosexuals, the one thing that drives me nuts is that homosexual men specifically think it's some kind of badge of honor to seduce someone of the same sex into some kind of... to me, it's akin to rape when they do that. And a lot of times they're using roofies or what do you call it? Rohypnol? Or what of the date rape drug? They're doing all kinds of things like that to seduce men at vulnerable spots and things like that. And I really, really don't like. I mean, I don't like it when guys do it to girls. And I know.
And we're not saying one is worse than the other, but I understand what you're saying. There's like this. You're taking another man and at usually a very vulnerable time in their life, and you are influencing them and seducing them. You're doing all this kind of stuff that maybe they don't quite want to do. They don't have like a leader figure or whatever it is, because a lot of time it happens. It comes from someone that's a father figure to them.
Yeah, it's basically it's like grooming, like you would a pedophile. I mean, I'm sure they're consenting adults and all that, but it really drives me nuts that gay men see this as some kind of badge of honor to make some straight person do something that they really don't want to do, but they get coerced into this. I think that's a really big problem. I don't think there's necessarily laws against it or anything, but certainly morally and ethically, I think it's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, and I agree. And the Tati chick goes on to explain things to James Charles, how he would go around talking about, doing sucking hoo-hoos and blowing watts and whatever. And it's just stuff that she'd say, I can't believe this kid was talking about this all the time. And then in James Charles' video, he says, I'm so sorry just forgive me for everything I've done. I'm a virgin. He just, why? There's just so many weird details. And as far as I know, I'm more inclined to believe the Tati chick, because the James dude had to make a comeback video super quick without any production, anything. Just put up his iPhone. He's like, yeah, I just woke up and people were like upset at me. I'm just like, I'm saying, hey, no, this is true. So if any of those things were actually true, he would have come up with an actual video and tried to defend himself and say, hey, look, here's receipts for this, this, and this. This didn't happen. That didn't happen. That is not at all how any of this happened. They're lying. But instead, it's one of those really quick things. I got to put out the fire as quick as I can because it's burning down my house. But anyway, so his whole thing is they'd go places and he tries to hit on straight people and seduce them constantly. And there's this one guy that ended up making a video talking about how he's bi-curious, which is something that bugs me, bi-curious, but we can get into that another time. And James convinces him to go up to his hotel room when he got done off work, waiting tables and whatnot. They go up there and they make out for like an hour. And he's like, James is frankly like the worst kisser I've ever kissed. Yeah. But then he was like crying.
This is the way the guy sounded?
Well, I mean, like, he sounded more like this, but this didn't sound as annoying. So, so he's saying they kissed for like an hour, and a lot of there's some you were making out for an entire hour, 60 minutes, and that's all you did. It's just a little alone in a hotel room kind of thing, weird. But anyways, then James Charles was like crying and bawling to make him come back, and was trying to give him money and like free subscribers and all this kind of stuff, and didn't want him to tell anyone, and it was just really weird and really creepy, and I don't understand why this is all going on. And my issue is that I think within 3, maybe 5 years, James Charles, if he's still relevant, is going to become a pedophile. So he's 19 right now, so he's a legal adult. This kid...
This is a prediction of yours.
Yes. And then the kid that was talking was like 17 or 18. Now, here's the thing that I've noticed. When people typically come out as homosexual, that age, and then when they come out when they're 16 and they start dating other 16-year-olds that are gay, unless they find their mate very early on, their partner, as they get older, if they don't find that person that's with them basically for the rest of their life, they tend to keep going back to that age that they came out at. I don't know why that is. That's a lot of... It's very trendy right now to do that.
I'm really not tracking. So you're saying some guy who came out 30 years ago does the same thing?
I'm saying right now what a lot of kids are doing is that they're coming out at 16 years of age, and then they're 20, but they really keep trying to get guys that look like and are around the age of teenagers. It's getting to that point where they always make themselves act and look like they're a teenager, and at some point it's going to cross a line.
Well, at some point they're a legal adult, and
well, that happens all the time, though. Is this consensual rape, as some people call it, where it's the age difference, but you're both consenting and whatever. But I think he's going to cross a line and get in trouble. If this is an actual behavior that he's partaking in, I think at some point he's going to keep messing around and think his fame is going to cover up something, and he's going to mess around and do something wrong to the wrong kid, and James Charles is going to go to jail for a very, very long time.
He's probably not going to go to jail for a very long time. Unfortunately, depending on the state he's in, most pedophiles don't get a lot of jail time, number one. Number two, he will get whatever profits he's ever made off of whatever. He will not have those anymore. He'll be sued into oblivion.
Yeah. But then here's this other issue with James Charles is there's all these people that were his friends. The moment now all this stuff's coming out, there are people that are personally texting him and calling him and writing him emails, people posting on his Facebook page and Twitter about how horrible of a human being. Like, they are tearing this kid apart from the inside out. And there are people that just did a video the other day with them about how they're like, oh, best friends.
So what happens when he commits suicide?
Don't know. But this is what I was warning kids in my Sunday school class this morning, was about this is what happens when you view social media and the internet as reality. When everything...
But wait. You said earlier that it is reality, that these people are...
I never said it's reality. I'm saying
that
they're
sharing 100% of their lives. Isn't that reality?
No, that's not what I'm talking... they're showing their whole life. But the majority of everyone out there, I'm just going to say everyone that's in this age range doing all this, they view the internet and what happens on the internet as total reality. When, that whole thing with Tati and this makeup thing, if they're truly good friends, I would say, Tati, why didn't you just call James and say, hey, can you take that down? Or, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm still friends with you. I'm still here for you no matter what, but the brand...
So the more you talk about this, the more it sounds like a promotional stunt.
It's really not, because the dude is bailing on subscribers. Like, he is dying. His channel is dumping huge amounts. And
not a promotional stunt for him, but for her.
Sure, I don't know. You know how many makeup channels, MUA channels there are on YouTube? I mean, they're
obviously I don't.
There's easily like 1,000 that are profitable, like actually make money. And there's probably closer to 1 million that just exist. But anyways, the whole problem with all this, when I was talking about Sunday school class, is that everyone views this stuff as total reality, and it is screwing up all these people's lives.
Well, sure, their brains are getting damaged. I mean, you're a teenager, your brain's already scrambled because physiologically your brains are getting shifted from childhood brain to adult brain. I'm sure there's more scientific ways of saying that, but that's reality of what's happening. And so in the mix of this, you throw in this YouTube and social media garbage that isn't real for the most part, or they put, a lot of people put a greater kind of thought process into it. What do I want? Emphasis, that's the word I'm looking for. They put an emphasis on it that really shouldn't be there. And it really is like any other addictive drug. And I sit there with teenagers and young adults all the time, and it's like they can't sit and talk to me for more than 2 minutes without looking at their phone.
Yeah, they don't understand
because
how
they're
to make...
addicted.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's what I was warning my class today about the internet being reality, but the big thing about bandwagoning, which is the mentality that happens from the internet now. So what's happening with this James Charles dude, he jumped in and put his life on the internet to a pretty good extent. Not all of it, but a pretty good extent. And he was basing his income, his lifestyle, everything he did in a frame of reference for a camera and for the internet and for taking pictures, just for the media. And now that he doesn't have that and people are ripping him apart, he is dust in the wind unless he can do some fabulous Jesus walk on water moment and come back, which I doubt he will. Now everyone's gone. But all those people that he thought were his friends and doing all the stuff with him, they're not there anymore. They're gone. They ripped this kid apart, whether it was for better or for worse, for being reality or just, whatever it was, being a stunt. They've ripped him apart. And this is what I'm trying to tell people, is that it's not reality. So those people out there that you've never met and just say, oh yeah, we're cool friends, you're cross-promotional, whatever, there's some kind of business and money exchange going on. You are no longer friends. You were never friends. It is a business deal, and that is what social media is. Anything you do on there is to get ahead. It is not about caring. It's just like if you're going on a trip and your friend texts you and says, hey, when you're coming back in town, you're going to pass my grandma's house. She has a vase that's mine. Can you pick it up and bring it to me? And you say, yeah, sure, I can do that. So you stop at your friend's grandma's house, you grab it, you go to your friend's house, and you give it to him. And he says, thank you. And then he starts trying to open his wallet. He's like, how much do I owe you? That right there breaks the friendship apart quite a bit. I've had that happen to me, where I'm like, if I'm your friend, I'm doing this. I am not a service. I understand if you're like...
But it's nice that they offer to give you money to compensate you for gas or something.
Right, but if it's more than that, when it's just like, hey man, here's $5 for gas. I appreciate it. Versus how much do I owe you? Where it became this business transaction, and I realized, oh, you weren't asking me because I'm your friend. You're asking me just out of, I don't know, I was near there.
Convenience.
Yeah, and you can pay me off. That messed a lot with my friendship, and it messes with a lot of other people. I've listened to other people talk about very similar experiences. The moment you involve money and all this kind of stuff, it's not real. Right, so maybe this whole thing is promotional for Tati, and she's making up a lot of details, and he's just not doing a good job of defending himself. But whatever they had in the beginning, it was not real. The moment that he tried to reach out to her to get ahead, she knew at some point, I'm going to throw this kid way beyond me, and I'm going to pull him back and use him
as soon as there was a signed contract, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Just ask Steve Wozniak. I mean, people who are friends when they go into business together, family when they go to business together, quite often don't talk to each other after a few years because business is business. It's a cutthroat world.
Yeah.
And the almighty dollar is king. And if you're not a solid person to begin with, then the dollar is going to outweigh relationship.
Yeah, and there's very few people, if ever, that... when they're making a business, they're just making it to create something cool. They're not really concerned about profitability in the long term or whatever. They just want to do something like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make some cool flying car, and if I sell a whole bunch, I sell a whole bunch. If not, but I can say that I did it, and that's what matters. Is that
that's not the way most people think.
I said that's why there's few, if any. But that's the thing. There's very few, if any, of those people out there that view it anywhere outside of this realm of money. But almost everyone else views it as money. Even teachers, which, the whole idea is that you're going to help and teach our kids. No, you're not. You're doing it for money. Because that's all you ever complain about, even in front of kids, is about the money.
Yeah.
What happened to the days when, you just did your job and shut up?
Slave.
Well, yeah, I mean, what, I sell appliances now at Best Buy. I don't talk about how much money I make. The only thing I do is I tell people I'm not commission, That way there's no pressure for them.
But you have kind of an unspoken amount of sales you're supposed to complete each month.
Yeah, I got a quota that I have to sell, otherwise
And
they
when
get in
you come
trouble.
home, you say, well, I'm not going to make my quota this month.
Yeah. But
It's kind of like the state sheriff who doesn't have a ticket quota but still needs to write tickets.
Yeah, I've had plenty of people argue with me about that, where, well, cops don't have quotas to write tickets. Yeah, they do, because that is tax money.
Well.
So, but anyways, yeah, that's just, this whole situation is one of those things that it's blown up this past week, and I doubt after today it's going to mean anything tomorrow.
Well, next week there will be another social media blow up and everybody will forget about this, won't they?
Right, and that's the bandwagoning thing that happens with social media, where people just lose interest in everything so quickly.
You scroll the page and there's something new.
Yeah, and which isn't reality. It isn't.
True.
When you log off Facebook, that car you didn't like 5 minutes ago is still in your driveway.
Dun, dun, dun. What, you mean if you don't use creditkarma.com, your car won't renew in your driveway like in the commercial?
What? No.
Well, this is a man-child and the old guy teaching moment, though, for everybody out there, that what you put on the internet stays on the internet. It doesn't go away, even on Snapchat. You think it goes away, you think that old Facebook post nobody can find. Somebody pays a little money to the Wayback Machine, and boom, it's right back there, and they're reposting it. So stop posting stuff on your social media, on your websites, on YouTube, wherever, that you don't want people to see in 40 years, and you don't want to be embarrassed about later when your kids get old and start searching the internet for what you posted there when you were still picking your nose. So just stop it. I can tell you as an employer myself, when somebody applies for a job, first thing I do is go on social media, because most people out there don't know how to set their privacy settings. And I start seeing pictures of people drinking tons of alcohol and flipping the camera off and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to be in a customer service position. Guess what happens? Their resume doesn't go to the top of the stack. So that kind of stuff, it hinders your life and your future if you're not careful.
Preach it, brother.
There you go. Well, it is time for our donation segment of the program.
Please donate. We don't have money. We want to keep this show going. We want to put in like true production value. We want to treat you like the true listeners, producers, and douchebags out there that you are. So please give us money and we can make a podcast great again.
Well, for people to give us money, we actually got to get that set up.
Oh,
But we do want to thank you for supporting our podcast and sharing our stream of consciousness. We call that Crossing the Streams. We're still setting up our donation page and website as we explore what it means to be a podcaster. But we thank you for crossing the streams of consciousness with your friends and family. And we appreciate your help in promoting the show.
Yeah, thanks. The show's not over like I thought last week. It's just a break.
That's right. It's just a little break in the center.
Break. I thought I was like,
But
man,
we
we're
do
doing
want
a
to
short
thank
show.
We do want to thank people who are helping us produce the show and things like that. So as we get a few more shows underneath our belt, we'll have this kind of figured out a little bit better in the future. But on to some things that the thing we like to call "Don't Be That Guy."
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one, this is so stupid.
Okay.
And so, not only don't be that guy, don't be an Austrian.
What? Because Nazis?
No, well, they're
Are you being racist towards other people's point of political views?
absolutely
How
not.
dare you? Just because they are Aryan
That
of
is not what I'm
ancestry
talking
does
about.
not mean they are bad people.
There's something going on. This is another social media stupid thing. I don't even know how to say this, but I'll just read the headline. This is from The Sun in the UK. Austrians told to stop French kissing cows after bizarre challenges sweep social media, sparking fears of attack by protective herd. And there's people, cows got their big tongue hanging out of their mouth, and people are pressing their tongue.
This is why people think vaccines cause autism. When did this happen before we did when did this happen? Never. It didn't happen. Now people are going out, taking photos of themselves, tonsil hockeying with a cow.
Well, in Britain it's called snogging. But
it's called snogging in Britain.
They're snogging cows with or without tongues, and it's all the rage in Austria. But here, the other side of this is really dumb. This is endangering the animals and those smooching them. How is it endangering an animal?
I'd be more afraid of the cow biting off the side of my face than me doing anything to the cow. Am I going to pass on a germ? I'm pretty sure I'd get mad cow disease from that.
And then there's this one guy, he shows up to the cow he's going to start making out with flowers.
Hey, baby.
Now,
what are you doing there? I want to give you some flowers before,
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of people, there's boys and girls. There's a thing in the Bible that says don't do stuff with animals.
Don't fornicate with an animal.
Yeah, and there's guys with beards, and there's...
Okay, why do you gotta put that out? There's guys with beards, like every guy with a beard. You have such this fascination with guys with beards are horrible people, and they're gonna start making out with cows because they are creeps.
I said nothing about beard...
But you made a very specific point out.
This is because usually guys with beards are a little more manly and wouldn't do something so stupid.
Well, maybe they're drunk.
Well,
are you being drunkest? Some people identify as a drunk, and a homeless man. I think it's highly inappropriate of you to call them out, especially in light of the Capitol and the House and everything here in America. Legislating stuff to put a new Civil Rights Act up.
What?
Yeah, man. You can't discriminate against people anymore, dog. The New Left has totally taken that out of the rule book. Because we are now in a world where you can do whatever you want without being discriminated.
Okay, I have no...
You haven't seen that bill now where it protects gay people more than ever or something?
Yeah.
Anti-discrimination, but it covers a whole lot more things where because someone's gay, or even if they identify as something that day, you have to treat them that way per day.
Well, there's a law in California you have to use the right pronoun.
Yeah.
So if I was in California, I'd refuse to use pronouns. I'd figure out somebody's name and only use their name.
John.
Yes?
Okay.
Hi, John.
So the next Don't Be That Guy is again in Europe. Last week it was all Florida weird people. This year
it's always in Florida. It's just, Europe is...
This week it's Europe. So there's a French doctor who killed 2 patients by poisoning them with anesthetics so that he could revive them to impress his colleagues. So he gave them intentionally too much anesthesia so that he could bring them out, but unfortunately they died during the process. And his name's Friedrich.
I know people can't watch us while we're doing this, but I'm giving you this dead-eye stare.
He's done this to 50 people, and 2 of them died.
Well, you know what? That's a pretty good odds. It is. It is. That's pretty good odds. 2 out of 50. Come on. That's better than a kid in public schools in America getting shot,
odds.
Right? Yeah. Well, it's like 80% of kids in public school are going to get killed in school shootings. So that's a much better odd, right?
No. This is bad. I don't want to be part of this dude's...
Well, what kind of doctor are you? Is this like a discount doctor? I know they got that Medicare for all crap, from Obama or something over in Europe. But what kind of doctor do you have to go to where it's so discounted that he literally kills you while you are paying him to do dental work or something, and then revives you just to impress Jenny at his office because she thinks he's an overweight, middle-aged guy that's married and has no skills.
I don't know if... does France have universal health care?
They all got universal stuff.
The way Great Britain does?
We can look it up, and I'm fairly certain that they do have a form of universal health care. You ever thought that Australia is just the southern states of the UK?
No, that was the...
No. Australia is a southern
No,
it's
no,
the southern states of the UK.
no, it's not. Anyway,
I'm
this
just saying, you ever thought it's kind of a...
it's where they...
Yeah,
it's
but I mean,
Botany
like...
Bay, man. It's where they set
Australia, Dad.
It's where
It's
they set
Australia.
the criminals.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like the southern states of the UK, because it's still like the UK.
So Friedrich here, I'm just going to just forget you're saying that.
Thanks, Dad.
Friedrich here claimed that because the French government banned him from practicing medicine now, it's brought him to the verge of bankruptcy. And he put out this statement, his financial situation is very complicated. He's been without revenue for the past 15 months, whereas he could end up with an acquittal.
15 months?
Yeah.
And the guy's still out?
They exhumed tons of the bodies, and they found like these bodies were all had enormous amounts of...
I did not do nothing. I am
Yeah.
just a normal French doctor. I just kill some patients to bring them back because, monsieur, I think it's a good idea to impress Stacy, my secretary, with killing someone and bringing them back from the dead.
Yeah, so
Bonjour.
So, another man-child and the old guy teaching point here.
Don't kill people
don't-
and then try and bring them back from the dead.
Right. Doesn't work, and don't French kiss cows. I mean, just...
Or, you know, if it's...
And don't do it together.
Yeah.
Don't kill a cow and then try to French kiss it back to life. That won't work either.
It seems...
So this is the next story, which is coming out of the New York Post, is interesting to me because it's something that's cultural that's going on right now. And I fear in the next decade it's going to get far worse. And so I really want to get your kind of take on this,
Okay.
man-child.
Okay.
So there's this comedian, he's Egyptian-American, and his name is Ahmed. But in the middle of his set one time in New York,
You scream Allah Akbar?
well, here's what he did. He asked how many people were there from the Middle East, and a few people clapped. And then he said, well, it only takes one of us. Then after a laugh break, he said, to tell a joke. But somebody in the audience called the police later and said the joke made them uncomfortable, and the police came and started talking to the comedian about it.
Okay, jeez. Right, okay, so it's just, I kind of view that as...
So two officers were sent to the club to question this guy. And I don't get that. It's a joke set.
Where was this at?
Some club in New York someplace.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. I get it that it's funny, haha.
But
I wasn't there for the show, so I don't know if it's in context or not. Like the whole show was just kind of those kind of jokes.
But it's not only that they call it was the police didn't. They called the day after. Like so, they went to the club that night and listened to this comedian. He gives this kind of joke in the middle of his set.
Right.
They wait till the next day to call the police, and the police, because he's back at that club the next night, show up to question him.
Wait, so the audience calls the next day?
Yeah. So it wasn't even the same night he's getting
hold on.
questioned.
In my head, I thought it was like during that silence, they automatically dialed 911.
No.
Because at that point, I can understand it. If that's someone that was there in like 2001, and then, you know, with everything going on, I can totally understand that if he's like, how many of you guys are from Middle East? It only takes one of us. If he said it seriously
You gotta
enough,
finish it off though to tell a joke.
right? But it only takes one of us. And if he just looked around the room for like 10 seconds, and if he just bombed with this joke just
no
before
pun
that,
intended.
no pun intended. Yeah, but if he just killed it, I don't
No
what do you
pun
say?
intended.
No pun intended. If he didn't do well with his first joke before that, and it's already not funny, and then he does that, oh boy, would I get out of there. There's no chance I would stick around for that. And that's just how I feel. I probably would have got up and just walked right out. Until I heard like laughter, then I might go back in. But I would feel so uncomfortable. I can understand feeling that uncomfortable. I don't know about calling the cops a day afterwards. It's just like when other things happen in life, everyone calls the cops like 5 days later.
So how is this different from, because most comedians shade the truth, exaggerate, use stereotypes to emphasize their humor. So how is that, if this is happening to a comedian about terrorism, which is a sensitive subject, but most people's culture is a sensitive subject, their gender anymore.
Right, but my gender and sensitive subject about someone's religion usually doesn't go into, I'm going to kill everyone in here. Right?
He didn't
in
go
New
there.
York City.
He didn't even.
But he made a joke about being from the Middle East. I'm sure the dude's probably Muma or whatever. He's probably Muslim.
Ahmed.
Even worse. And he's gonna make a joke about blowing up something. People are
No,
like,
he didn't.
"We didn't say he was gonna blow it up." But it only takes one of us. That is we know what you're talking about. We're out of here. That is exactly what that is. So it's different
It's
than
not like
just
he
saying
pulled his shirt open and he had like a.
No, but again, I wasn't there,
bunch
so
of
I can't
plastic
tell. I
strips.
wasn't there, so I can't say if this how the guy did it. If he bombed or killed with his first joke and it wasn't good, and then he does that joke and it's silent for like 10, 15 seconds.
No, there was laughter, and then he said to tell a joke.
Yeah, I'd have to see a video of it because
I don't really care what the guy said. My problem is that somebody called the police, and the police thought it was worth their time to drive over and find this guy and start questioning him.
I think it all matters. Sorry, I keep hitting the table, but it all comes back to how it was said, where it was, the context of it. So
it's a comedian.
Stop. It doesn't matter if it's a comedian or not. We've got comedians that are serial killers, dude. And they talked about how they got away with murder, and it wasn't until years later people figured it out. All right? It does not matter if it's comedy or not. If this dude is seriously making, like, the context matters. If he's making a joke, quote unquote, a joke, and it's a really bad joke, and it freaks out a bunch of people. Yeah, I can get, like, being freaked out. I don't know about calling the cops, but if you call the cops and you tell it to them,
but it was I'm
shush. If it's no, shush. Let me finish. And this chick, because I've got a feeling it was a chick that did it, calls the cops and gives a totally different context to that situation than how it was at the comedy club, and they were just butthurt versus what actually happened. But they tell the cops their butthurt version of it. Then, yeah, as a cop, you'd be like, wait, what? There's a dude at the comedy club that's talking about blowing it. What? And you get down there. Depending on how
he never said he was going to blow anything up.
I'm going to tell you to shut up, okay? I'm just going to tell you to shut up.
Don't say shut up.
Second,
say be quiet,
because he didn't say. You're not even listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying that he doesn't have to. It does. I said this chick. Again, I'm assuming it's a chick that did this because it just seems like they're the ones that have their feelings hurt like this. Is that they most likely told the cops that's the stuff he was saying. That's the stuff that was going on. So their butthurt version of the context, so that they can get the results that they want, most likely happened by him saying, "I want to blow everyone up." That's how she summed it up. He doesn't have to have said that, man. Get it through your head that people are stupid. She did not have to say, or he did not have to say a joke about killing people. He can just, it only took one of us to tell a joke. Everyone loves it. But she can just say, I didn't like that. He made a joke about blowing up stuff. It's not a matter of he said it or not. It's a matter that she made a police report about some dude making a joke about blowing up a comedy club in the middle of New York City, which is a sensitive subject, not just about religion,
so
culture,
would the
whatever.
police still come out if he would have said, it only takes one of us, to be gay? And that could have hurt somebody else.
Would it still be the same comedian named Muhammad?
Oh, maybe it was Julie. I don't know, but
no,
the police...
It's about context. It's totally about context.
So, would the police come out and question him because he was making fun of gays?
No, I don't think so. Unless maybe I've never been to New York, so maybe they actually do have hate speech laws, which exist. But
and this is New York City. My issue is that if people were really concerned about this, why didn't they call right away? One, and why did they wait 24 hours?
Well, I agree. So here's what happens.
And then there is a lot larger crimes going on in New York City than a comedian implying some kind of joke.
But those are the kind of things. I'm going to tell you how this happened.
You're going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you exactly how this happened.
You're going to snap?
So this chick decides to go to, we'll name her Stacy, the same stupid chick that Dr. Freudman was trying to impress. But she decides to come stateside because she wasn't.
Did she kiss a cow?
Probably did on her way into the comedy club. So she gets there, and she's like, all right, I'm culturally accepted, so I'm going to watch this guy do a comedy show because he's from Egypt. And Egyptians just have like a really rich culture. And I got a degree in liberal arts, so let's see how this goes. She's going to show up. She's sitting down. She's drinking a couple Mai Tais, watching this guy make a joke. She's a little, well, I think I had one too many to drink. And he's going to make a joke about, it only takes one of us. Oh, I feel uncomfortable. To tell a joke. Oh, that was funny. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go tell all my girlfriends about this. So he's done with the show. She leaves. She goes home. And it's like, girls, I got to tell you this joke. What happened, Stacy? Oh my gosh. And she's going on telling him about... And then he said, it only takes one of us, ... to tell a joke. Oh my god, Stacy, that is like so offensive. Oh my gosh, how could you ever say that? That's really offensive. And then you just had this little flock of crows nagging each other about how this is offensive.
Okay.
This is not SJW. This is against people of color. It's, you know, whatever, politically incorrect.
This is the same thing that happens with teenage girls when a girl goes out with a guy and she really likes him. But then all of a sudden she gets around her friends and they start saying all the little things about this guy that they don't like. And then all of a sudden she changes her opinion about the guy.
Yeah, so she might have felt uncomfortable at that instance when it said it, and then it was a joke. And then suddenly it's funny because that stress just, boom, it's gone, and you're open, it's funny. I can see that.
But it was the groupthink that she's part of.
She goes back to the apartment that she can't afford because it costs $50,000 to have an apartment in New York, with all the 50 other chicks that are in the apartment all paying $1,000 a month, which I don't know how you could afford doing. And then they convince her that it is, you know, it is not appropriate because it's politically incorrect or whatever, and it's racist for you to assume that whatever they decide to do. And they decide to omit certain details about the events and insert some other ones that definitely were not there and allude to other things that may or may not have happened.
Yeah,
so when they call the cops a day later, it's because it's after she talked to the girlfriends and they've convinced her to do something about it. And this is the only way to get an appropriate response.
Yeah, so it's people that can't think for themselves. And can't defend what they're thinking and why they think it.
I don't even think it's about that.
And it's this groupthink that just kind of takes over stuff.
I don't even think it's about groupthink. I think people are so completely indoctrinated to an idea, like communism, that if you do not agree with communism, you are dead to me. So you better convert back over to communism because this is the one true way in life.
So this is the only way I can keep friends is to agree 100%.
This is the only way to be a true living human being, to achieve anything in life, is to do this, is to do all this virtuous signaling. If you don't do any of that, you are a waste of human space. And, you know, there's nothing good about you at all. Wow. I mean, that's why I think it's more than groupthink. I think it's just about ideologues and how people.
Yeah, well, I don't know how people are going to be a comedian in the future. I mean,
that's going to suck. I am still a firm believer the United States will have a second civil war, and at some point in I think the next 30 years.
Conspiracy theory alert.
Whatever. I personally thought if Hillary Clinton got elected president, there would be a civil war because I had witnessed several Navy SEALs, several people from the military that hated her guts so much, they made public statements about how it'd be easy to be a mile away and shoot her dead at the inauguration, and they would get away with it. Several.
What was this, on YouTube or something?
I know there's one guy that like made a phone call on the news about it, but you
realize the NSA is probably scanning this podcast.
Oh, go for it. Put me in Guantanamo Bay. at least it's better weather than Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but I was definitely convinced that, and I still think if she had gone elected, there would have been whether it was a successful coup or not, there would have been a rather very large fight, and there'd probably be quite a few dead bodies piling up in certain areas. I think there'd be way more rioting, but then again, who knows? Maybe Hillary would have been, for whatever reason, the greatest president of all time. Don't know. But I am convinced that within the next 30 years, there will be another instance in the United States and it's going to spark a huge debate. And I think it's going to be...
Well, that happens every day.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be a debate about politics. It's going to be a debate about country lines, like dividing lines. I think it's going to become people are going to view conservatives as the South. Everyone else is going to view themselves as the North, right? Because the North of the country is...
Because all the red states are in the center. It'll be the coast against the Midwest.
Right, but they will view us as that. And then we won't have any option for anything else because, well, whoops, Nebraska and Iowa, we're all stuck in the middle of the country. We have no hope. But then you have those areas where you got states that it doesn't matter what the state thinks. It's about the big cities.
The Midwest has all of the nuclear weapons.
Great. But then you got 50. It's like, dude, it's seriously like a 50-50 split about like abortion.
I know.
50-50 split.
I was reading an article the other day about how the rest, mostly the red counties in Illinois, want Chicago to become the 51st state.
Yeah, and what do you do? There's so people talk about not having enough diversity of opinion. There is plenty of it. There's so many opinions about how to do things that it just takes one. It's going to start a fire. Throw a match at a bush that's been dried out.
Well, this kind of story about somebody turning in a comedian for a joke.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff. If that was ever coming to... I mean, this would be the straw that breaks the camel's back at some point in time. But I think it would be
break the camel's back because if they took him out back and just put a bolt in the back of his head because he said something not PC.
Yeah,
I think that would be...
That's what I was getting at in bringing this story up, is that this kind of stuff, I see it showing up in the culture a lot more, and I'm a little concerned about it. I read books when I was a teenager and young adult.
Yeah, I read Animal Farm.
Brave New World, Animal Farm, 1984. This is the kind of stuff that's in those. So it's not a good thing. But I do want to say that the comedian was pretty lighthearted about it. He said, after the show, I stood outside and shook the hand of 98% of people in the audience. And he said this, I mean, come on, terrorists don't do meet and greets. And so at some point, unless that person or the people who turned him in was part of that 2%, he engaged everybody there. And it probably was pretty obvious that he wasn't a terrorist.
I don't know. I don't know because I just say that more and more now. I don't know. I wasn't there because so many people expect me to know so much about a situation that I can only conjecture. What's the word? Put conjecture in or think about a subject from what details I know. And the more you talk about it, the more you come up with your own narrative about what it looked like, how people sounded, how everything went. It could have been an audience of like 10 people. And it could have been really small, just stand-up comedy thing. And the dude was just killing it. I mean, it was super funny, and he made that joke, and it freaked one person out, but everyone else just laughed at that person. They're like, yeah, you're right, it was funny, oh my gosh. And they go out and then call the cops.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's going to become, they're going to take a dude out back and put a bullet behind his ear because he offended too many people. And then as soon as they don't put the cops on trial, the city's going to say, no, they did a good thing. Then you're going to have a state that's going to be like, oh, we're going to be a little bit divided on that. You have cities trying to secede from states and then states trying to kill everyone. Next thing you know, New Mexico is America split in half and New Canada is the northern part of America. It's just, dude, it is a fine line. It just takes 1 second. But then again, if you just turn off the news, you turn off social media, you just go outside. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, here's something that matters because you talked about serial killers a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a guy who was arrested in Tennessee.
Yeah, boy.
Well, actually, he was arrested in Georgia, but he killed the women in Tennessee. 3 women he's been charged with so far. 2 women in Tennessee and 1 in Georgia. He's a carnival worker.
Oh, I heard something about this. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard something about it.
But I shouldn't laugh because people died, but the way he's telling police these women died is comical. Like,
how did he kill
them? He said he shot each of them. But he says he did so accidentally. So he's let's see. So the first woman, he shot the first woman. He said he buried her body near his home in Virginia, and he was on a walk with her, and his gun accidentally discharged and shot her. And then
my shotgun accidentally loaded itself, cocked itself, and blew her head off.
Yeah, they don't say what kind of gun he used, but the next one he said they had sex in the woods near his home, and after they had sex in the woods, he was trying to shoot an animal, but he shot her instead. And so he covered her body with logs next to a creek.
Is that his way of trying to get past the rape part?
I don't know. Oh no, they had consensual sex.
It was consensual before I shot her head off.
And then the last one that he's been charged with, they were on a walk.
Right.
And he told investigators he shot her when he tripped and fell. And then he put her body in the back of his truck. And that as he was driving his truck, her body fell out of the vehicle while he was driving over a bridge, and her body fell into the river.
He likes to walk around with guns a lot.
Right. So I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, what do you have for suspension in the back of your pickup? Pogo sticks? How is a bump gonna?
And not only that, but the bridge has to have some pretty small sides. I mean, if it's a through deck beam girder bridge, there's big.
That means nothing to me. But
bridges with big side, the big I-beams on the sides and stuff. Yeah, to have a body bounce out of your truck and then fall into the river accidentally. But why are you driving the body in the truck if you accidentally shot her?
I was trying to get her to the medical examiner down at the hospital. I didn't. I don't know. I don't get it. If you're going to kill somebody, at least try to come up with a story or figure out what you're going to do. You know, just to have some general idea about what's going on before you just make it up on the spot. Hey, kid, we found this body.
Well, he probably convinced himself that this is reality.
No. He's coming up with this stuff on the spot. I bet you doesn't even have a cell phone.
Well, the big problem is that he's part of a carnival.
And so people part of a carnival are all serial killers and they're just horrible people. The big problem is that he's part of a carnival.
You didn't let me finish.
I didn't have to. I know you're going to say, well, because he can travel all over and do this over and over again.
That is what
so you're just saying the carnival is enabling him to become a horrible person to murder thousands of innocent little girls.
Wow, you extrapolated that one right out, didn't you?
I'm just saying, this is what that's what you're alluding to.
This carnival traveled up and down and did shows on the East Coast, and the authorities are contacting all the jurisdictions.
What about Jews? What'd you say about Jews?
Jurisdictions where the carnival had traveled to make sure that there's no missing persons in those areas, because potentially this 23-year-old psychotic person has killed other people.
So
but
just because he's 23, he's psychotic.
He's psychotic because he killed 3 women accidentally by gunshot, and one fell out of the back of his truck over the bridge railing.
He's a carnival worker. You think he can afford a truck that's got a good suspension? Jeez, dude, cut him a break. He just lost like 3 girlfriends to accidental gunshots.
No, I'm not cutting him a break.
Come on.
He's a serial killer.
No. He's an accidental killer.
So, but before the show, I had you look up this sculpture by Jeff Koons.
Right.
So you knew what I was talking about when I brought it up.
Yeah.
And it's called the Rabbit.
Mm-hmm. It's not
And
a Volkswagen.
No, not a Volkswagen. And it's looks like a Mylar blow-up rabbit, but it's made out of, it's a stainless steel casting of this inflatable-like looking rabbit. Now, it is pretty cool, and it's interesting to look at. It has some really unique properties, the way it reflects light and such. But it's sold for auction for $91 million. And I don't get this.
Because the art world is not about actually buying art as it is money laundering. It's about giving money to certain groups, to certain people, certain artists to get away with certain things. It is not about actually making money. You know, getting to like a lot of these weird museums.
Well, obviously, he's made money off of this.
Well, sure, he's
There's
made
no-
money, but there's something else in the background. Someone's buying this because this is the money that he just gave him was laundered money. That is a lot of the time why these things go for such crazy amounts of money. And you see the same thing every year get sold again and again and again for more money, because it means you can have more money at one time and launder it at one time. So if someone buys it, then they sell it again for even more money, and they just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And they, you think it's different people each time. The reality is the same corporation, just a different employee each time, laundering money, hundreds of millions of dollars every single day of our
You
existence.
have no evidence of any of this.
I have plenty of evidence of this because I was part of the art world.
Okay. Yes.
I have more of an experience and knowledge of this kind of stuff than you do, good sir.
Where
I have helped set
where
up
in-
these sorts of things.
where in the Kent Bellows studio where there's money laundering going on?
Not the money laundering, but at the Johnson, a lot of these other places that people set up these kind of things, anywhere that people are bidding on something, it is not about actually buying it. It's about laundering the money.
But laundering the money means that there's some nefarious activity. If it's simply a rich person who has a lot of disposable income, why is it automatically going to laundering money?
Majority of the time, what happens is company A buys the painting, right? So it's an expense to them. Now, all they have to do is put it back up for auction under a shell company. Now, shell company decides to put it up for auction. Company A buys it for $100 million. Great. Now, shell company just sends that money back to company A, and then they put that money.
Okay, you don't understand laundering money.
Dude, I'm
then.
saying this is how a lot of the crap works.
Okay, and that's fine, but that is not laundering.
Dude,
That is
dude,
that is
dude.
that is not laundering money. Laundering money is I brought in money from the sale of drugs or something like that illegally, and I put it through my business and then pull it back out so that it looks like it's
So the money is no longer in company's A thing. It goes to buy this product. It goes into the fake company, the shell company. So what they do is that money just gets wired for a quote-unquote purchase from company A. So the money goes back to them, and they can just keep doing that over and over and over.
That's called a
hiking the price.
Ponzi scheme.
No, dude, because
That's not laundering money.
Yes, it is, because no one ever actually buys the painting. It just goes back to the same company. Company A owns the Mona Lisa, and they just keep doing it. What do you mean it's not money laundering? It is money laundering.
Money laundering is to
You are cleaning
every
money.
show you belch.
So what?
Laundering money is taking illegal money
Yes.
that was gotten under
Yes.
nefarious context
Yes.
and then pumping it through your business or whatever and making it into legal money. What you're describing is simply a Ponzi scheme, like me writing you a check and then you writing me a check after you deposit that check, and we keep going back and forth with the same check so our bank accounts look like they have more money in them than they actually do.
It is so that the money is considered not illegal. If I sold Just hush up. Give me 2 minutes.
Then
Just
you've already
look at the
explained
clock.
it twice.
Well, obviously you don't understand it then
Because
if
you don't know what you're talking
yes,
about.
I do. If I sell you cocaine for $1, hypothetically, then I go to my fake company I have across the street and I go buy this painting for $1, and they give me the painting, whatever. They don't actually give me the painting. They just keep the painting and get my money back. But they keep the money, and then they say they buy a product from us. Therefore, I give them a product that doesn't exist, and then I get that dollar back. It's not about a Ponzi scheme that we both had this amount of money. It's that now this dollar did not come from that drug trade. It came from
You
company...
didn't start out explaining it, saying
Oh my
you
gosh,
just said,
yes I did. I definitely did. I talked about there being this company, they buy a painting, set up a shell company. Shell company always owns the painting. Therefore... anytime they put money into get the painting,
You're
they
just
get the money
saying-
back. No, I'm saying this is a Ponzi scheme. How is it not a Ponzi scheme? I mean,
You just said-
Shut up.
Thank you for agreeing with me. I appreciate it.
It is not. No, I am saying that this is money laundering.
All I'm
It
saying...
is laundering money. They get it back. That's all it says.
Okay.
It's literally laundering money.
You didn't start out your original explanation by saying...
did.
Would you let me finish talking?
Okay, you got 10
didn't,
seconds.
You didn't start out...
5.
You didn't start out your original explanation by saying they purchased cocaine. You just said Company A did money to Company
okay,
B.
no. Do I really need to go into depth to explain money laundering to you? Someone that I know completely understands money laundering. So I have to go in enough depth to say exactly where I got this money, the exact date, the hypothetical people, what kind of car that was shady enough in a dark alley in the middle of New York City where I bought the drugs from and then sold them to you to get the money back, to go back to company A, then to put into shell company with the painting. That way I can give the money to the company with the painting, and then they give the money back by quote-unquote buying a product, and therefore I have the money again. But now that they have the painting again, I can just keep buying the painting back from them, even though the painting never has to go anywhere. It just stays with company, the shell company, and I just keep pumping money into them, and then they keep pumping money back into the company because they're saying they're buying something, therefore the money is laundered because it's being cleaned by buying the product and being sold to me again.
All that to say, I think it's nuts that somebody paid $91 million for a 3.5-foot casting of an inflatable rabbit.
I agree. I think laundering money is wrong.
Wow. Speaking of that, guess who needs to wash their interstate?
I'm gonna say Iowa.
No, Indiana.
Dang
Pretty
it.
close, though.
I was thinking Midwest. What's
About
up? What's
midweek last week, a semi hauling 41,000 pounds of amber honey lost control and rolled over on the I-80-94 interstate. They contained 5 containers of honey that fell out of the truck, and at least 4 of the containers are leaking honey onto the interstate. 8 containers of the honey are still inside the box trailer after the crash.
So is it like just leaking honey on the interstate that's like, by now I'm sure it's getting pretty hot. It's getting like sticky, and then you're driving and it's messing up road conditions? I mean, I don't know. It's not Wile E. Coyote, so I don't know the reality of what that would do to a car.
Yeah, it's not going to do much to a car, but if they don't clean that off of the interstate, it's going to attract a lot of bugs. It's just a sticky situation.
Oh my gosh. You are so funny.
Yeah, I know.
Just looking, that is.
Thank
your
you.
joke was good, too.
Thanks. I waited all week to say that one.
Sophisticated yet infantile.
Yes,
good job.
So, speaking of police out on the highway, there's an interesting story this week about the Nebraska State Patrol. Mm-hmm. They have kept the 1993 Ford Mustang.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the only ones in the country. I believe it's a 5-speed. I think it, because you have to know how to drive manual in it, and the majority of the time it just sits. It's not the one that they drive around all the time. It just sits on the side of the road.
Well, they do display it at a lot of things. Ford only made about 15,000 of them or so.
Yeah.
But the State Patrol still uses it in parades and community outreach. But they do sometimes use it out on the highway, and it actually beats the modern day cars, like the Dodge Charger that they have, and also the modern day
the thing's just
Mustang.
a floating box.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of that Mustang. It was just a little square triangle-y box, and it's got a big engine in it, and that thing just goes.
Not just a big engine. I mean, it's a big 5-liter V8.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all made out of the hoses in it are metal. There's no rubber hoses in it. I mean, it's built as a race car. And I bet this thing pegged out at probably well over 150 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, yep.
But I think it's interesting that they've kept it. I remember seeing in the touring auto shows of the day not this exact car, but State Patrol always had one of their. When I was a kid, they would have these auto shows, and we'd pay our 2 bits to go because they'd have like the Dukes of Hazzard car and Starsky and Hutch and those kind of things at these car shows as an extra attraction. And the State Patrol would often have their cars there, and they would have the hoods popped, and you could sit inside of them occasionally. But the cool thing to us teenage and young adult males was looking in at these massive motors that were all chromed out, a lot of stainless steel in them, not a rubber hose in them. The only thing rubber in there was really the belts.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would have blowers on these things, and it really looked like an engine that could really haul a car down the road really quickly. And it doesn't look anything like modern day quote unquote muscle cars, which I would disagree whether they're actually muscle. Excuse me.
I think the definition has changed for muscle cars. I wrote a whole paper on that, if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So I personally think the definition for muscle cars needs to change, because like if you want to say classic muscle cars, great. I think that's a good definition for what those cars used to be.
But what's classic? A
classic is a V8 coupe car that's only rear wheel drive. That is the classic definition of a muscle car.
traction?
Sure, or whatever.
A classic muscle car to me is from the 60s and 70s.
Well, it gets debatable about decades, right? Because the first actual muscle car that fit the criteria for doing it was the Buick 494. I don't know, some number scheme or something. But that was the first one that really met the criteria of becoming a muscle car, and was treated the way that muscle cars are. And then Buick had one too, or Pontiac had another one too, like GTO and whatever. But it's just comes down to the definition. They've had to lighten it up, because then if you start saying 60s and 70s, you have to make another definition that classify the 50s and then the 40s, and then what about the 80s? And it just gets
the cars from the 40s and 50s, those were chopped in the 60s to make some sort of race cars or muscle cars out of them.
Yeah.
They put larger dragster engines in them and things like that.
What wins on Sunday sells on Monday.
Right, but in the 60s, mid-60s, early 70s, these cars were non-altered out of the factory fast. People would add things to them, of course, but when you look at like the 1969 Dodge Charger,
yeah, but
the
then would you
Mustang,
consider? Okay, so you consider the Mustang muscle car, even though it's actually a pony car.
The 68 Mustang that had the 5-liter motor in it, yeah, the V8, absolutely. It was one of the fastest production cars made that year.
Right. But a lot of people have an issue with it because it's not a muscle car, because it doesn't meet the length and weight criteria that like the Dodge Challenger Charger did.
Yeah, well, those are just bigger cars. But
Giant.
their length on them, though, was artificial. I mean...
Well, it's just like the 70s Mustangs. I think it's the Mach
there was
2.
like 2 feet between the front bumper and the radiator.
Yeah. Why? I don't know. I didn't get anything out of it. It was just to make it look cool. But this is where I think, classic muscle car, the idea, needs to be kind of put away. Because even now, I would argue that for muscle cars, you got, like, the Dodge Challenger really sticks to its roots. Because you can still get that just rear-wheel drive, no other amenities, basically, and a V8. And that's really sticks to it. It even sticks to the way it looked, too.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
And then you get the Mustangs where, in general, you can't call them a muscle car because they're a pony car, but they've evolved into the class of muscle cars. I mean, they are gigantic.
Yeah.
Even compared to the ones from the early 2000s, they are gigantic now. But most of them only are coming with 4 cylinders. And then occasionally you have a 6-cylinder, and then only when you're buying a 302 Boss do you get a V8. Outside of that, it's basically just a 4-cylinder. But even that's really fast and powerful.
I say you don't really need much more than that anymore because the technology they've created, along with the specialized transmissions they're sticking in these things. I mean, those 4 cylinders off the line are as fast as the old V8s.
And that's why I think the definition for muscle car needs to change. Because if we're still using the same definition that the majority of people use is a V8, rear-wheel drive, whatever, it doesn't work. Because while that was just pure beefy power, it's different now. Technology has changed where you can have a rear-wheel drive 4-banging car that's better than a V12 whatever car you can come up with from the 60s, the technology they had then that can fit in a modern car. So my argument was that I think Tesla should also be included in muscle car, in that the new kind of term of the definition, because like you were saying before, muscle cars were cars that came off the factory line fast, and Tesla, like a Tesla 100, a P100D, which is a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, when put in ludicrous mode, goes 0 to 60, and it's like nearly a second.
No.
It's like 2 seconds or something.
It can't be nearly a second. You'd rip somebody's neck apart. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. Why don't you look it up for me? The Tesla P100D, and see how fast it goes 0 to 60. You know, maybe I'm messing with that, but it is somewhere like I'm going to say 2.5 or 3 seconds.
Say it again. Tesla
P100D. P100D. 3 seconds.
2.3 seconds.
2.3.
0 to 60.
Right. But that thing's electric. But that thing is,
well, electric cars have more torque.
Right, but they get up that speed, then they kind of just stay at that speed. But it's still fast. I mean, they're zooming around like 150 miles an hour still. And that's where I think the modern term for muscle cars should change. I think it should include like electric cars. If you make an electric car,
Ferrari's faster than the Tesla.
Yeah, but a Ferrari's not
a tenth of a second quicker.
Yeah, a tenth of a second. But a Ferrari's not American muscle though.
No.
So that's why I'm not looking at BMWs or whatever, because it has to be from the United States. Tesla is an American company, just like Ford and Dodge, and I guess Chevy, but whatever. I trust Dodge more than I trust Chevy right now. They're American companies that make American cars, and they kind of stick to that formula. And then the Teslas, they got a muscle car kind of looking sedan-esque-ness to them. I just think the definition needs to change, whether people like electric or not. I don't necessarily like how the new Mustangs really look. But hey, whatever. It's still a muscle car. You know what? I really like the Dodge Challengers. I think they look great. If you get the V8, there's a package you can get where it's a fuel-saving thing, where if you put it in eco mode, it only uses 4 of the 8 the cylinders. So it's just a 4-cylinder Challenger on the street, and then once you put it into sport or something, all 8 of them kick on. You know how cool that would be? Because you can get almost like 30 miles a gallon in a Challenger.
Yeah,
that's nuts to me.
Well, that's good engineering.
Yeah,
I mean that's what that is. They have the technology to do it, so why not? Modern day cars are run entirely by computers. You think you're driving your car, you're nuts. When you push on the gas, you're not doing anything but sending an electronic signal to some kind of electronic carburetor in a computer thing. The only thing you are doing when you turn the steering wheel, you're actually turning a rod that, of course, it's power assisted, but you're actually still turning the tires, but it won't be long before a car.
There's some cars that
yeah,
don't.
they're totally you know what the aircraft engineers call fly-by-wire. It won't be long, and cars will be totally fly-by-wire, which is a little scary simply because if something goes haywire and you try to turn and you're not turning, yeah. So, but it's scary and as long as they have redundant systems, we should be okay.
Yeah, I want to get a 6-cylinder Civic engine and put it in my car.
Did they make a 6-cylinder Civic?
Yeah, Honda makes 6 cylinders.
In a Civic?
Yeah.
In a Civic.
Yeah, they have them in the Accords too. They're more popular in the Accords, so you can. It doesn't really matter, but they're the same engine. But I want to get. It'd be more appropriate to say Accord because They do they put them in? I don't think they put them in the new ones. The new ones just have turbochargers. But yeah, I want to get a 6-cylinder Accord engine and put it in my little Honda Fit.
Won't fit.
It can. It has been done. They can fit in there.
No, come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. They do fit. So I want to see what that really would be like. I saw a guy put
your four-cylinder motor barely looks like it fits in your Honda Fit.
No, there's plenty of room in there, man. There's gaps all over.
It's not like the gerbils have a brake room.
No, but that VTEC though, when it kicks in, bro, yeah, man. I love VTEC. I wish Honda didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, well, speaking of kicking.
Oh, is this Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Did you see the video?
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. I watched it like.
Did you
50
see
times.
the video from the other side?
Where he's just standing there and a dude just comes up behind him, drop kicks him.
Right, but did you see the video? Somebody had a video going from the other side of Arnold. And the original video they posted, it looked like Arnold went down and stuff. But when you view it from...
it just like pushes him forward a bit. And
yeah,
looks around like, what?
It was like, what fly just hit me? That's just amazing. Because I grew up with Arnold. Now, some of his original movies, like Commando and stuff, you've sat and watched.
I love Commando.
Yeah.
The continuity errors are
amazing. Yeah, and just his one-liners that all started kind of with that movie. And
I'll be back. It was like a question in that. I'll be back. When he comes back to Terminator. I'll be back.
It's a... Yeah, so I grew up with the guy. He's like 70 years old now. But, I mean, he's down in Africa supporting his Arnold Classic Africa, which is all these sporting events and such. And he's hanging out with the kids. He's looking pretty old, but his pythons of justice
even when he turns around, you kind of see a bit of a belly, but his pecs are still like, bam.
Yeah, and I mean, his hair's getting kind of thin, but I'm sure he could beat the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, and I just think that's so cool though. He's not one of those dudes who just banked it and then disappeared. He's still out there, like totally living his life. So cool for him, even though he's got like a 16-year-old son.
Yeah, the from the maid. The funny part I thought in the video though was after the kid ran up behind him and tried to do something like hit. I mean, I'm sure Arnold's like let's say 250. And this kid that looked like he ran up to... It looked... From the story, he was trying to do something to Arnold before, but a security held him back. And security turned their back for a second. He ran up to do this flying. So the kid probably weighs like a $105 and hits this Terminator mass immovable object and barely even does anything to it. But while he's on the floor, Arnold's security comes over... And
he just like picks him up with one arm and throws him.
Well, but did you see the security guy like put his hand in his hair and was like, just yanked him up by his hair?
You're gonna get in a lot of trouble, kid.
It just drags him off. I thought that was the funny part.
I want to see someone edit it to where he kicks Arnold, he goes back a little bit, and then it just does that morph from the Liquid Terminator, and his head and body just like instead of him turning around, is just. The back of his head becomes the front of his head, and his whole body like morphs to the front of it, and looks at the kid, and an eye goes red. I'd love to see someone edit it to do that.
That would be pretty funny. But I'm amazed by the guy being 70 years old. He gets the flying dropkick stuck at him WWE style. It doesn't
he just
even
turns around like, "What did you do?"
He's just like, what's up with that? Well, anyway, that's about it for today.
Yeah. It's been a long week. It's been a long day.
Well, we'll be broadcasting from our basement again next Sunday. I'm the old guy.
And I am the man-child.
And until next week, don't fall up a down elevator.
And remember, if I don't make it back, you made me come here. Alright, see you guys. Have a good week.